Hello, I'm Dominic Giordano. Um, as was mentioned, I was a student intern here at the Warren County Historical Society. Um, I started interning here in February of 2021 and stayed until June of that year. Um, and during my time, I worked on a mapping exhibit, which gave an overview of maps and history through maps of Warren County. Um, as soon as I got here at the Historical Society, I was taken in uh, immediately by Terry and Stan. Um, and I expressed my interest in learning more about the history of Warren County, and I expressed my interest in cartography. And right away, they gave me a list of ideas and projects that I could work on with them. And I remember specifically noticing one at the very bottom of the sheet that said the ability to make an exhibit of sorts. And I thought this was incredibly interesting. So I expressed my interest to them in cartography and mapping history, and we got to work right away. I worked diligently and learned a lot of valuable skills about what it means to be an historian. I learned how to research, I learned how to craft narratives, and I learned how to tell an amazing story, as any historian should. Um, and yeah, I began selecting different maps that I wanted to present that sort of overlaid the history of our county that we call home throughout time. Um, and I've selected a few maps in specific to speak on, as I feel they each have unique stories to them, as do all the maps that I included in my exhibit. But I feel these explicitly express unique and interesting stories in their own ways. Okay, so this first map here is a map by Drex Bellen. It was created in 1757. It is a map done by a Spanish cartographer that was employed by the French government to map the New England area, obviously very new at the time. And something that's particularly interesting about this map is the mapping of Lake George. And as we know, we've seen the map of Lake George quite often. It's all over, everyone has that little sticker on the back of their car, has it on the shirts, as we were mentioning before. But if you'll notice, somewhere in the middle of the map there, if you look up, it's very small, obviously, but next to what is listed as Lake Champlain, there's that little circle, little blob, what looks like a body of water, and that is what was mapped down as Lake George. Now we know very well nowadays that Lake George is not in fact circular, as is depicted on the map, but it just goes to show you the extent of the ability of cartographers at the time, and that is why this map was included in the exhibit. Next, we can move on to a map that I chose for a specific reason, and that reason being its simplicity. This is a map of the Samuel Adams patent in 1767. It was a map that displays the first land grant to a British official in the British military in 1767, which was unusual at the time. Permanent settlements were not given to British military members in this period due to the sparse population of the upstate New York region. But this is uniquely interesting because of that fact. This is also said to be what is colloquially accepted by historians as the first house settlement in Warren County, which I thought that was also particularly interesting as well to see. Here we have evidence of the first house being mapped, and I think that was definitely something that we needed to include within the exhibit. But yeah, that one as well. And then we move on to the fifth map in the sequence of maps that I included. This is a map by David Burr, created in 1829. It is a map of the entirety of Warren County, and it is one of the earliest maps of the entire Warren County. I believe it was created only 16 years after the founding of Warren County, and it displays land plots and regions within the map itself, and explains the different provinces, I guess you could say, of Warren County as well. And I included it in my exhibit because I thought it gave a great overview of the progression throughout time of Warren County as a region and how we viewed that through maps. As you can see, this map is very intricately detailed in comparison to maps previously included in the exhibit. There's a lot more going on. We see a lot more progression, a lot more settlement. And that's the story that I was trying to tell with this progression that we see here. And if we move on to the next map, we have a survey of the Adirondacks done by a famous cartographer of the late 19th century, Verplanck Colvin. Verplanck Colvin was an interesting character. He played a crucial role in the settlement and development of the upstate New York region and Warren County. He was a surveyor that contributed greatly to what's the correct way, to the conservation of lands in upstate New York. However, there's an interesting story that goes along with the character of Verplanck Colvin. Through a lot of records that we find from his employees and his surveying team, we see that a lot of people depict him as a man who was very concerned with his own personal accolades, very unorganized at times, and appeared to be very selfish. I thought this was definitely interesting. When I did my research on Verplanck Colvin, I found that to be kind of surprising in comparison to how intricately detailed his works were. It's obvious that he has a great team behind him, and to be sort of an individual that would claim the personal accolades towards himself, I thought that was definitely interesting to note about Verplanck Colvin. Nevertheless, impacted the development and settlement of the upstate New York region immensely, barring his own personal character disputes, etc. But yeah, that is the Adirondack survey. And the last one I'd like to showcase is a Sanborn map. This is one of many variety of maps that I included in my exhibit, from topographic maps to Sanborn maps. Sanborn maps were constructed by fire insurance companies to keep records of a given city or region, and mark down basically their fire safety. So you see here a bunch of colors and numbers which are attributed to certain characteristics within those buildings. And these characteristics may be the material that they're constructed by, so brick, wood, stone, etc., whatever it may be, as well as intricacies about the building, how many staircases they had, how many floors it was, etc. So, and I thought that was definitely interesting to include as well, because that showed not only the progression throughout time and development of cities in Warren County, but it shows how maps are progressing as well. We see the distinct coloration here. We see the numbering systems, the intricate details within the index. And we're seeing throughout time, the tools that are being used to create these maps are also progressing with technological innovation. And I thought that was definitely interesting as well. But yeah, just as an overview of that, those are some of the maps that you can find in my exhibit. There were a host of other maps that displayed this theme particularly well, I feel, and I definitely appreciated my time here with the Historical Society and can say I'll be forever grateful for being provided the opportunity. It was certainly something that I'll take forward. The skills I've learned and the research I've conducted will definitely serve me in the future. But yeah, without further ado, I believe it is time.
Show them that.
The pamphlet, correct. Okay, so I constructed, along with the maps in my exhibit, a pamphlet. I don't know if you can see here, it's kind of, can't see it too well, but a pamphlet that sort of provides a guide to my exhibit as sort of an extra layer to go through as people were coming through, to guide them as well as the detail that I provided with the maps. But it's list each map in my exhibit and list a brief explanation of why I thought it was important to include, as well as if there were any unique or interesting details about the maps, etc., as I explained in some of the maps that I presented here today. But it was sort of just something that people can take home that served as additional information if they were curious, and I definitely thought it proved to be successful in that right. I know I definitely appreciated having that there as something to provide people in case they were curious for more. So that was definitely something I found to be interesting as well. But yeah, other than that, it was definitely a great experience.
Tell me about the opening.
The reception, yes.
Yeah.
So we also had a reception at the end of my, well, subsequently at the end of my like high school career, but at the beginning of the summer, in which we had everybody come to the Historical Society, and I presented my exhibit along with an explanation and speech of my work here at the Historical Society and all I had accomplished, and that went extremely well. I thought it was a great experience yet again to do something like that and relay all the information that I had been gathering throughout my entire time with the Historical Society. I thought it was definitely an experience nonetheless, and I certainly appreciate being a part of that for sure. But other than that, I mean, it was just crazy to see everything come together at the very end once you work on something for so long and put it all together and get to present all the information. But it definitely served greatly rather, to the overall idea, which was expressing my interest in the history of Warren County through maps and through cartography, and explaining the story of said maps and correlation to history throughout time.